Welcome back to Newsroom. Now for a look at what's happening in sport. We start off with some cricket news. Just 2 weeks ago, on the exact day, we were here talking about the humiliation that the West Indies put on Pakistan in their opening match of the Cricket World Cup. It's completely different today. West Indies have been humiliated by the favourites England in today's match 19 of the Cricket World Cup. Totally dominant performance by the Englishmen. The commentators, they were saying that West Indies were totally off today. Not the type of performance you want coming off a loss and then a rained out game. So things are not looking good for West Indies. They were totally dominated, of course, today by the Englishmen, as we keep mentioning. And, of course, 212 all out, batting first in 50-over cricket in this day and age. Not the type of total you want. And the Englishmen, led by Joe Root, a wonderful run chase and winning with as many as 17 overs to spare. Akeem, you saw the game. Your thoughts?
I just had to gasp there a bit because it was utterly disappointing. You expect better from West Indies.
Right.
When we were here the last time, we spoke about the fact that they had history on their side, a recent history.
Mm-hmm.
They had, that mental aspect, to that England will be thinking these guys are not, good guys. They
Right.
drew a series with us at home, and then they came out today, and you were wondering if they wanted to come back in the
Right.
Caribbean. A lack of thought process. I would say it was simply, especially the batting. You look at the recovery, Hetmeyer and Puran would have been doing. Kudos to them. Good,
Right.
two youngsters. But then you look at the way Hetmeyer was dismissed at that crucial juncture of the game. Had they batted for, let's say, about 6 more overs or carried close to the fourth over, that would be about 10 more overs.
Ideal game for Russell and company.
Ideal game for Russell and company because they could accumulate about 190 odd
Right.
heading into the last 10. And we know very well West Indies have the capabilities to score 100 runs in 10 overs,
Right.
which have given them a total of around 300 runs.
Yeah, so they were 55 for 3 at one stage, and then Hetmeyer and Puran came together. They added 89. When Hetmeyer went cotton ball by Joe Root, 144 was the score in the 30th overs. So still 20 overs remaining, and that would have been perfect for Russell and the likes to come and really budge on the attack.
Yeah, essentially, what lacked there today was application. Match process in terms of thinking. How do we go about getting to the best possible score?
Right.
You recovered, and all you need to do is grind the situation out. Those dismissals were very soft. Joe Root coming on, and I hit straight back to him. I know he was struggling. Hetmeyer is speaking about here, but he's good enough to just grind the situation out. There was an innings today. We just needed to bat as long as possible because you could clearly see that Owen Morgan and company were beginning a bit worried when Puran and youngsters were just going and they were batting cautiously, not giving away the wickets, and all of a sudden Joe came out with a golden arm and got Hetmeyer playing an easy shot back to him, cotton ball, and then unfortunately Jason Hole, and then things went downhill from there with Russell going wild at some deliveries, and by then West Indies would have essentially lost the game.
The early wickets, of course, Chris Gayle, Shea Hope, and Evan Lewis continues to struggle. You think that played a part in how things panned out?
Yeah, certainly. You look at successful one-day teams, you need to have a good start. I know Chris Gayle, he was doing good, but you expected Evan Lewis. You look at the way out. There seems to be a technical flaw with his batting there. So, but you needed Evan Lewis and Chris Gayle to put on some runs at the top. It seemed that Shai Hope would have made it all his runs ready for this World Cup, unfortunately. But, he had a rough time there against the pace of Joffa Archer, is expected. But you're supposed, at this level, you're supposed to be able to counteract those stuff. You knew from before that England would come heavy at you with some short balls. So you're supposed to be planning towards that. To be 55 odd for 3 wickets down, you're always up backs against you all. Yeah. But then to have that good recovery and then fall away at the end, it's very painstaking as a West Indies fan overall, because at the end of the day, despite maybe not my team, you're still a supporter of West Indies cricket. And today, what happened is that they just totally lacked thinking. They didn't think anything through, especially with their batting, and this really lost the match.
Yeah, and of course, you mentioned the faster men. Mark Wood and Jofra Archer got 3 wickets for England. Now, England, in their reply, they were without Ian Morgan, basically, and Jason Roy.
Exactly.
West Indies came out. It's like you're basically playing against a batting team of 9, but there was no intent on the fast bowlers.
Yeah, it seems that they gave up since when they were batting.
At the halfway stage. Yeah.
Exactly. And, unfortunately for them, had they, batted those 30 more balls they had left remaining, it could have been a different scoreline, And mind you, they already knew that those two guys were struggling. So they
Right.
had a batting attack where two of the most integral players weren't 100%.
Correct.
So had you gotten 30 more runs, it seems like 30 more runs, but it could be a totally different game with some confidence heading into the halfway stage and then unleashing O'Shea and those guys against England attack, given that they themselves are on a shaky rock batting-wise.
Right, and of course, not using the full amount of deliveries. 32 deliveries were unused in the West Indies innings, and then they lost a lot of deliveries. They lost the match by, so their net run rate took a hit. Before the matches was 2.054, and at the end of this one is 0.666. So it devastating result there for the West Indies. And my good friend Quason Ned, he mentioned on Facebook that it is clear that West Indies seem not to have a plan going into this World Cup. Different new ball bowling opening pair, openers different, and they seem not to have a plan to go about winning this World Cup. Do you agree?
I think they maybe have plans, but execution of those plans, again, has come to the detriment of West Indies. I don't know if Avenash is fully fit because he seems to be one match in and one match out. And based on what he's saying at the toss, is that there were some forced calls, which would imply he's not fully fit.
Yeah.
So again, it was always a risk bringing Evan Lewis and Russell into a fifth over format. One, Evan Lewis didn't have best of form into this tournament. Also, Russell, we know anything over 20 overs is an extra strain on his body.
Right.
But the decision was made. They're here, the professional cricketers. They're supposed to stand up. But I just think today, we West Indies lost the match was just that they didn't execute maybe what was planned on the books. They could have bided their time batting. Just play the crease. Even if you have 3-4 runs per over, just as long as you bat and have wickets, heading into the last end of the game, they would have done so well.
Good. Not much positives really from today's encounter. And looking ahead now to Bangladesh, who they play on Monday, the recent results don't suggest that things will get better.
Yeah, just remember in Ireland, just prior to this World Cup,
Tri-Series.
The Tri-Series, West Indies would have lost all 3 matches to Bangladesh. Mind you, West Indies haven't beaten Bangladesh in a bilateral series since 2014. So that is some time that West Indies have gotten the upper hand over Bangladesh. And Bangladesh are showing that they're in top form in this World Cup. So I think West Indies are up for another tough challenge come Monday against Bangladesh.
Good. So the West Indies need to win against Bangladesh to stay alive in the competition. England, meanwhile, they have enhanced their chances of making it to the semi-final round. Thank you very much, Akeem. Join us after the break for more sport.